I'd started recording again, and I climbed up on a ladder, and I slipped and fell down, and my legs went under me, and I broke both my femurs.
When Laura Branigan died in 2004, her family stepped into a silence that felt heavier than anything fame had ever brought her. She had spent years fighting to rebuild her life and career, and she left behind personal notes, unfinished work, and messages that no one expected to find.
It's really a song about the seduction of the night upon me.
Oh, I see. The seduction of the night. Now, do you mean when the night comes, you're seduced?
Uh-huh.
Oh. You mean, don't you have to meet somebody first in the afternoon? I don't know.
No.
No. But what does self-control mean? You have enough control to resist the temptation?
Maybe.
Ah.
Those discoveries pulled her family straight back into her world. They realized how much she carried, how much she planned, and how much she never got the chance to finish. Laura Branigan's sudden passing. The sudden passing of Laura Branigan in August 2004 stunned fans, shocked the music world, and left a deep void among family and loved ones. On the night of August 26, 2004, Laura suddenly passed away peacefully in her sleep at her home in East Quogue, New York, at only 52 years old. The cause of death was later determined to be a previously undiagnosed cerebral aneurysm. It had ruptured without warning and caused a musical icon to leave the public. In the days leading up to her death, she had suffered persistent headaches for several weeks. But like many who don't suspect the worst, she didn't seek medical attention. The announcement of her passing spread across the globe. For many people, it was deeply painful, because Laura was a voice that had defined much of the 1980s pop era, and she was suddenly silenced. Immediately after her passing, obituaries rolled out, and tributes poured in from fans, peers, and journalists, mourning the passing of a singer, but also an era. For her family, the loss was profoundly personal. Her brother publicly shared details of her passing, speaking of the shock and sorrow. Aside from the immediate heartbreak that he felt, there was also the sudden pain, because no one expected that she would go to sleep and never wake up. Her ashes were scattered over Long Island Sound, symbolically returning her earthly remains to waters that mirrored the ebb and flow of her career. At the time of her death, Laura had been creatively active. She was working on a comeback, recording new songs, preparing an EP, writing a cookbook, and planning to launch an online store. The abrupt end meant that those projects were left unfulfilled. This is one of the legacies that Laura Branigan left behind after her death that brought her family to tears. The entertainer who had once captivated audiences around the world with hits like Gloria, Self-Control, and Solitaire was gone, but the abruptness of her exit made the loss all the more painful. Yet, her passing solidified her legacy. Fans gathered, shared memories, and kept her music alive. Annual memorial events, titled The Spirit of Love Gatherings, became a way for admirers and loved ones to come together in remembrance, honoring not just her voice, but the warmth, passion, and artistry she embodied. Over time, the body of work, once defining the soundtrack of the 1980s, continued to find new listeners. Her story became bittersweet. In the end, Laura passed away, but the legacy that she left behind brought her family, friends, and fans to tears. Significant musical legacy. The musical legacy of Laura Branigan stands as a testament to her extraordinary talent, vocal power, and the global reach she achieved over a brief but bright career. Rising to fame in the early 1980s, Laura's breakthrough came in 1982 with her fiery, anthemic version of Gloria. That single soared to number 2 on the U.S. Billboard, Hot 100, and remarkably stayed on the chart for 36 weeks, a record at the time for a solo female artist. Her song, Gloria, didn't just dominate the U.S. charts, but resonated around the world, turning Laura into an international star overnight. The success of that song laid the foundation for a prolific string of hits throughout the 1980s. Her 1983 album featured the dramatic Solitaire and the heartfelt How Am I Supposed to Live Without You? The latter topped adult contemporary charts and revealed her versatility beyond dance pop into emotive balladry. In 1984, Laura released what many consider her crowning achievement, which is the album titled Self-Control. The title track became her biggest international hit, climbing the Billboard charts in the U.S. and also topping charts across Europe. Songs like The Lucky One added depth to the record, showing her ability to deliver dance floor energy and emotional nuance. What made Laura stand out, aside from her knack for picking or transforming songs, was her voice. She possessed a powerful, emotionally charged vocal range that could belt out energetic dance hits or tender ballads all the same. Her interpretations were marked by genuine emotion and a dramatic intensity that drew listeners in. Her impact went beyond individual songs. Over her career, Laura sold millions of records worldwide, earning gold and platinum awards in the U.S. and other countries. She performed globally across different continents, always drawing audiences with her live performances. Even after she passed away, Laura's music continues to find new life. Her song has appeared on film soundtracks and in television shows long after their original release, introducing her voice to a new generation. A notable example of her enduring influence showed in 2019, when her 1982 hit Gloria was embraced by fans of the St. Louis Blues as their unofficial victory anthem. But what affected her family and fans even further was that she was about to stage a major comeback before she passed away. She was working on new music and possible Broadway projects, and no one expected that they would never get the chance to listen to her new music again. Unfortunately, this was not the first time she had failed at a comeback, although this time it was a permanent loss for the world. Failed comeback attempt. The attempted comeback of Laura Branigan in the early 2000s represents one of the most impactful what-might-have-beens in pop music history. Everyone was looking forward to her comeback, but they didn't expect that it would be affected by a tragic, unforeseen accident. In early 2001, after several years away from the spotlight, Laura decided to return to music and started working on new material. She wanted to re-establish herself, rekindle her creative momentum, and perhaps embark on a renewed chapter in her career. But fate eventually intervened. While hanging wisteria at her lakeside home in Westchester County, New York, Laura fell roughly 10 feet from a ladder. The fall fractured both of her femurs. It was a catastrophic injury for anyone, but especially devastating for a singer whose career depends on mobility, stamina, and the ability to perform. She required the insertion of rods and pins in both legs and was forced into an extended period of recovery. For about 6 months, she underwent intensive physical therapy, and that eventually stopped her from her comeback. In 2002, she made a tentative return when she performed twice as the singing version of Janis Joplin in the off-Broadway musical Love, Janis. But soon after, she withdrew because of issues with the producers and admitted that there was a mismatch between her vocal identity and the role's demands. Meanwhile, some previously recorded tracks and the release of a hits compilation signaled that she had hoped to rebuild the momentum. The physical aftermath of the fall, along with years away from the evolving music scene and changing industrial tastes, meant that Laura didn't achieve her previous standing. What makes this failed comeback especially tragic is that Laura really wanted to return to the stage. She didn't want to give up on her comeback, so she decided to try again after recovering from her illness. At the time of her death in 2004, she was working on new recordings, planning concerts, and even revisiting her career ambitions. She could never achieve her goal because she suddenly passed away in her sleep. But the reason why she passed away without her comeback was because she had to take a hiatus and take care of her husband for many years. Taking a hiatus for her husband. The mid-1990s marked a deeply personal turning point for Laura Branigan, as this was a moment when fame and career gave way to love, loyalty, and loss. After years of musical success, she stepped away from the spotlight to care for her husband, Larry Krutek, because of a diagnosis that would change both their lives forever. In 1994, shortly after the release of her album Over My Heart, Krutek was diagnosed with colon cancer. Rather than keep pursuing new projects or touring, Laura paused her career to devote herself to his care. She turned to herbal treatments and took on the role of the primary caregiver. She was determined to support Krutek through his illness. For about 2.5 years, Laura stood by him daily. The demands of love and illness meant her once busy schedule of concerts, studio sessions, and media appearances quieted almost entirely. Eventually, on June 15, 1996, Larry Krutek passed away. The death marked more than the loss of a spouse, and it triggered a deep personal and artistic withdrawal. Laura stopped performing soon after his passing, and though she occasionally accepted invitations for concerts throughout the late 1990s, her public presence dwindled fast. For Laura, that period was a time of grief and adjustment. It was a season where loss, love, and mourning overshadowed her career ambition, but it also left her out of the public eye for a long time. It was a hiatus that reshaped her career and reduced her popularity. Even if she wasn't as popular as she used to be, the world hadn't forgotten her voice. Over the years, fans and industry watchers continued to view her with respect and affection. Her songs were always a part of greatest hits compilations, keeping her music in circulation. It reminded old admirers and introduced new ones to her signature power and emotional delivery. Though the hiatus altered the path her career might have taken, it also underscored the depth of her humanity. Rather than chase fame, she chose caregiving, which is a selfless act that, in quieter ways, revealed the heart behind the voice. Her commitment to love and loyalty, even at the cost of her public career, remains a poignant chapter in her story. By the time she was ready to come back to the big screen, she had another accident that delayed her again. And before the world knew it, she passed away suddenly. Creative and industry conflicts. Over the years in her musical career, Laura faced many other challenges in her creative work and in the music industry. One of the times was when Laura headed to London in 1987 to cut shattered glass at the PWL studios. She realized that the world was very different from the one where she had forged her early successes. Stock Aitken Waterman at the time had a reputation for churning out hits for rising pop stars. They used a production style that mostly relied on looping programmed instrumentation and a fast turnaround, almost an assembly line approach to recording. Laura later revealed that she was uncomfortable with this method. She didn't want to treat the song like another cog in the hit machine, but she wanted to sing the entire track straight through. She refused to settle for the fragmented, chopped-up recording style that Saw employed. She clashed with producer Matt Aitken, even objecting to his habit of smoking in the control room. The conflict revealed a deeper tension between Laura's interpretation-driven, emotionally grounded artistry and an industry that favored manufactured pop, where consistency, rhythm, and dance floor appeal mattered more than expressive delivery and vocal nuance. For someone whose fame was built on powerful, dramatic vocals like her soaring Gloria or haunting Solitaire, it was impossible for her to adapt to a mechanical, high-NRG pop approach. This was something she couldn't compromise. When Shattered Glass was released in June 1987 as the lead single from her fifth studio album, Touch, the result was underwhelming. The track stalled at number 48 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 that August, which was a far cry from the top charting hits of her peak years. It found some traction on the dance charts and also had modest success in particular international markets. But unfortunately, the song couldn't re-establish Laura as a dominant force. Shattered Glass was a moment toward reinvention that collided with changing industry tastes and revealed her as one of the few singers who fought against her studio to sing music the way she wanted at that time. Hard to market and faking her age. Another career challenge that Laura had actually faced was one that happened because she was actually too good of a singer. When Laura signed with Atlantic Records, the label recognized immediately that her voice was far from ordinary. Her voice had an extraordinary 4-octave range, which was an impressive vocal instrument that's powerful enough to shift moods, evoke emotion, and dominate airwaves. But this also posed a problem to how the label could market Laura. Atlantic struggled to figure out how to harness and present such a voice, like how to package it for radio, pop music audiences, and the mainstream market. These often preferred formulaic, accessible songs over raw vocal power. Because they were unsure about the right commercial strategy to bring their artistry to life, her debut was delayed and her early momentum slowed down. Her first album eventually emerged and produced a massive hit, but there was still a problem of how to sell her voice. Over time, as industry tastes shifted and the pop world moved toward different styles, some critics and commentators argued that many of Laura's albums and songs didn't fully reflect and use her vocal potential. That led to a pattern of uneven releases and a gradual fading of commercial presence after her mid-1980s peak. But as she was being managed by her label, there was another problem, which was her age. When she died in August 2004, many obituaries listed her age as 47. But in 2016, they revealed a correction confirming that she was actually born in 1952, so she had faked her age. This shows that either she or her label had decided to present a younger age. This was a practice common in the entertainment industry, especially for women. It made her appeal as youthful and marketable in a fickle pop industry. Like any other famous celebrity, Laura didn't only have issues with her label, but also dealt with contract disputes and lawsuits. Contract disputes and lawsuits. When Laura Branigan first rose to attention, she was managed by a person named Sid Bernstein. As her star began to climb, especially with a record deal with Atlantic Records, Laura felt like she should change her reputation. She decided to move on from Bernstein in favor of a new manager, believing this switch would better serve her rising career. But this managerial change triggered severe legal consequences. Bernstein filed a breach of contract lawsuit against Branigan, reportedly demanding as much as $15 million. The lawsuit claimed that by abandoning Bernstein's management, she violated an agreement in place. The dispute threatened not only her reputation and finances, but also her ability to move forward musically. The litigation had real consequences. It delayed the release of Laura's originally planned debut. One of the songs intended for that album, Looking Out for Number 1, was released as a promotional single in 1981. But the full album was never officially issued at that time, so she was delayed in entering the music industry. Eventually, Branigan overcame the legal storm, signed fully to Atlantic Records, and began recording again under her new management. The benefit was immense, as her debut album later produced the breakout hit Gloria, launching her to international fame. The contract had also affected the momentum that she had while starting her musical career. After her death, Laura left behind a significant legacy that left her family in tears. Even though she couldn't achieve the comeback that she delayed for many years, she still left behind impressive songs that have remained with the world till now. What's your favorite song from Laura Branigan? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.